hopping has been a favourite with those that possess the true spirit of adventure. Where better to hoist the sails of our adventure yacht than in the warm and inviting waters of the Caribbean Sea, where one can explore all those magical and romantic islands clustered in a chain stretching from the southern tip of the USA at one end and nearly reaching the South American continent and Venezuela at the other extreme. The variety of Caribbean island nations offer a unique playground along this desirable stretch of several hundred nautical miles of superb seas, where one's first encounter with fellow fun-seekers may be at a welcome barbecue party, where the steel band sets the mood of the spirit and the sizzling pot grill will give a taste of what lies ahead on this holiday destination to island-hopping adventures in the Caribbean. It's hard to resist those moments of long-awaited pleasures. No problem, as the locals will invariably say in their lilting, gentle, melodic accent, welcoming everyone to these magical shores. The sea is warm, the air is balmy, and the sights impressive and larger than life. This is the Caribbean, where much fun is to be had by all who care to try and have a good time. Flying across from Europe will take between 9 and 10 hours, and today's large modern jets make the trip pleasant enough. Most European nationals need the minimum amount of formality to enter Trinidad, the southernmost nation. Only some 7 miles from the Venezuelan shores, where the spirit of the Caribbean is often in full swing, all around the downtown streets where the annual carnival is colourful, the beat pulsating, and the desire to join in irresistible. The carnival season is short, but during those special days of spectacular parades, there's no escaping from the steel bands, quite unbelievable costumes, and the high spirits that everyone seems to share during the hot days and nights of the carnival in the Caribbean. Trinidad is a lush island, and together with Tobago, forms the independent nation of Trinidad and Tobago, with Port of Spain as its capital. The east coast is where the best of the beaches are. The carnival season is between February and April. Useful to remember for those that find this type of reveling an attraction. Beware though, flights during carnival are booked out long in advance. Port of Spain lies in the north of the island, just below the northern range of mountains. The city has a number of impressive great houses, testimonials to the country's colonial past. There are a number of holiday hotels too. most visitors tend to go deep inland and to the south to the Caroni swamps, where organized excursions by narrowboat take visitors to the breeding grounds of the scarlet ibis, a glowing red bird unique to these shores. Tobago, the sister island of Trinidad, lies to the northeast, almost a day's sailing away, but only a short 20-minute flight for those choosing this mode of transport. This is the playground of Trinidadians and the international visitors alike. The tranquil holiday island has the most beautiful white sandy beaches, calm waters, and relaxed atmosphere, much enjoyed by all those who visit and stop over here for a day or two, as is the form among island hoppers. This island has a very good selection of hotels and guest houses. There are ample facilities for all types of pleasure craft, and once ashore, there's no shortage of leisure pursuits. Pigeon Point Beach is particularly favoured. There is excellent swimming and snorkeling on the coral reef. Go to Store Bay and watch the brown pelican dive for fish. The walks in the Botanic Gardens are rewarding, and a trip to Fort George, built in 1779, at the height of the British and French struggles for these islands, and Englishman's Bay is an excellent point from where to view the sunset. Also recommended is a visit to Richmond Great House, an old plantation house where the profusion of the rich green countryside offers a great contrast to the bleached sandy beaches. Visit Speyside for getting away from it all, and if seclusion is desired, from here one can take a trip to Little Tobago, an offshore 450-acre bird sanctuary. Fresh pan-fried crab is a speciality on Tobago, the best of which we found in Charlottesville at the Gemma Seaview restaurant. Tobago's rainforest is worthwhile for a visit. There are organized walks through the well-trodden paths, cutting through to the hidden Argyle waterfalls and other scenic spots. It's rich in exotic plants and flowers too. There are some 700 species of orchids alone, and many hundreds of exotic butterflies. Mosquitoes are sometimes active, so spray your exposed limbs before setting out. But Tobago will be long remembered for its exquisite beaches, laid-back, relaxed atmosphere, and those gorgeous clear seas. Some way to the northwest, probably a fair day's sailing, is the island of Grenada, known the world over as Spice Island. After a long day at sea, if this is your mode of transport for island hopping in the Caribbean, the splendid beach of Grand Anse may well be one's first encounter with this remarkably beautiful island among the windwards of the Caribbean. Many of the island's fine hotels are located around here, and who could blame them? This is just like heaven for anyone with an appetite for the softest of the gentlest, sloping, white, sandy beaches. Like many of the neighbouring island nations, Grenada is busy and packed during the winter months, and rooms need to be reserved well in advance. But between May and October, some of the choicest hotels and beaches are all but free. St. George's, the capital, is really a port overlooked by a hilltop fort called Fort George, and the inner harbour is a charming 18th century town built by the French in 1705 and surrendered some 80 years later. Originally inhabited by the Arawaks, then the warring and cannibalistic Caribs, only to be colonized by the French, Grenada became an important center of the slave trade, supplying slave labor from Africa to the sugar plantations which were beginning to be established here and elsewhere in the Caribbean. Grenada is the spice island. The growing of dozens of different spices is world famous: nutmegs, chilies, and much else. The Dougalstone estate is probably the one to visit, where a lifetime supply of an assortment of nuts and spices can be acquired for a modest amount of EC dollars. Grenada is easy to be attracted to. It's peaceful and calm, an island paradise in the true sense, where natural beauty is in abundance. Most hotels are located on or near a perfect beach or overlooking a bay with clear blue, unruffled sea. A long-time favorite with young couples, either on honeymoon or just looking for a romantic holiday, Grenada is somewhat less developed and commercialized than many others in the Caribbean. The stopover here may well stretch to longer than first planned. The climate is superb, particularly during the spring months, and life seems more laid back than elsewhere. Explore the interior of the island, particularly the water-filled volcano of Itang, then the Concord and the Annadale Falls. The countryside is well worth spending some time on, even if eventually one finds the way back to the beach and another spectacular sunset. Leaving Grenada is hard, but with the prospect of returning someday. Next stop, the famed shores of Barbados. Affectionately referred to as Little England, Barbados lies off to the east of Grenada and is probably the best known of the Caribbean islands among the British. Bridgetown is where the island-hopping holidaymakers make land after their voyages, and it's here that the strong ties to England are most noticeable too. The harbour is forever buzzing with life. The harbourside inns and coffee bars will receive the new arrivals with affectionate hospitality. This capital city is indeed busy and alive. There's a feel that one has arrived in an oasis after a journey in the wilderness on the high seas. Bridgetown, the capital of Barbados, is on the west coast, the leeward side of the island, where the Caribbean Sea is calm and the nearby beaches are just perfection itself. The sounds of the local Bajan Creole language is like music to the ear. The natives seem happy, relaxed, and welcoming to all.
Welcome to the land of sunshine.
This is a good place to replenish your provisions if onboard supplies are showing signs of running low, and to stretch one's legs around the teeming marketplace of Bridgetown. There seems to be always something going on here. If it isn't the carnival proper, then some festival or another, like this one, celebrating the rich catches of fish from the surrounding seas. To the north of Bridgetown, on the Caribbean, rather than the Atlantic side of the island, are most of the popular holiday hotels, where Europeans, like migrating birds, spend their 2 or 3 week holidays year after year. Names like Sandy Lane, Treasure Beach, White Sands, Glitter Bay, and such like will tell you much about the Bajan coastline. The colours sometimes seem brilliant blue, sometimes deep emerald green. The palms sway in the breeze, and the sun never seems to stop shining. It's all too romantic. It would be a shame to be on your own, so make sure you have your partner with you to enjoy it all. On the windward side, the scenery is more dramatic, the waves more Atlantic, and on Crane Beach, the cricket is probably more fun than at the Kensington Oval, Barbados' own famous cricket club, where visiting world-class teams entertain the locals. Beware of the rolling waves here and the strong currents. Bathing is less secure on this, the Atlantic side of Barbados, though probably more exciting than on the calm, gently sloping western beaches. Barbados is full of hidden delights and things to see like Andromeda Gardens, Harrison's Cave, mini submarine rides, visiting old plantation houses, and even playing a round of golf. When you're island hopping, we would strongly recommend a stopover of several days here. There are inexpensive guest houses and hotels in the south, and elegant, comfortable holiday hotels on the west coast. Best time to visit here is late winter or early spring, apart from the high season of December and January, when everyone else back home is only dreaming of getting away. Average temperatures seldom fall below 75 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, so getting a tan, even during the coolest of months, will not be a problem. Moving on in a general northerly direction, one of the most picturesque stops among the Windward Islands is the one we often associate with romance, honeymooners, and a landscape that is unique and undoubtedly very, very beautiful. St. Lucia.
Travel to the great eastern country.
St. Lucia, where the description of tropical heaven is not misplaced, and where rich green valleys are bedecked with exotic plants, colourful tropical flowers refreshed by huge waterfalls and punctuated by towering mountain peaks, like the twin peaks of the Pitons. It's hardly surprising that this hauntingly beautiful landscape has become so very popular with those seeking a romantic backdrop to their holiday pleasures. St. Lucia is renowned for her exceptionally fine sandy beaches, some well hidden for total privacy, a lover's paradise. The Unicorn, old clipper, makes day cruises from Rodney Bay to the foot of the Pitons, passing Marigot Bay and along the most spectacular coastline around here. There is excellent diving and snorkeling on St. Lucia, with the opportunity of scuba lessons for beginners and sorties for the experienced divers. There are inter-island ferries from Barbados and St. Vincent, or small passenger planes that will make the hopping somewhat faster. The new hotels developing in St. Lucia seem to be those of the all-inclusive couples type. Even the once famous La Toc has now been sold off and converted to only take couples as guests. Don't miss the overland trip to the Pitons volcanoes. The trek is made shorter by the minibus shuttle to the foot of the mountains, followed by a climb through the lush vegetation of the rainforest and endless banana plantations. Once there, the bubbling volcanic mud pools are quite a sight, even if somewhat pungent smelling. The boiling look is not just an appearance. The temperature is very high and tourists are prohibited from walking on top of the volcano. Allow the best part of a morning for the climb and time taken up there. Once this feat is accomplished, a dip in the natural springs of nearby Diamond Falls Park is guaranteed to make anyone feel just great.
Wait.
Towards the northern end of the island is the country's capital, Castries. The port is often busy with cruise ships and commercial vessels like the banana boats that come in endlessly to pick up this vital export. Castries market is lively and certainly colourful, very good for fruit in particular. Make sure of having a handful of EC dollars if you're planning to do any shopping here. The yachts tend to pull in at Rodney Bay, further north, and many of the new tourist developments are around here too. St. Lucia is always busy with visitors throughout the year. Not surprising though, it's quite exceptional, even among the other gems of the Caribbean. Take a short hop on one of the inter-island planes to the very next island in the chain, the island of St. Vincent. Less well known, perhaps, to visitors than the islands we've seen so far, but that probably also means fewer tourists and a more exclusive holiday in store. Joshua Airport is welcoming, but too short for the larger planes, so visitors arrive here in smaller groups rather than large influxes, which is more common elsewhere. Kingstown, the capital, is only a short 10 to 15 minutes ride away. With its harbour, it's a hive of activity from the early hours on. Believed to have been discovered by Columbus on January the 22nd, 1498, St. Vincent became British territory after the Treaty of Versailles in 1783. Today, life is very different here, and certainly a lot more peaceful. The four-master cruise ship lying offshore poses no threat. Indeed, its human cargo of sun and fun-seeking voyagers usually stop for a few hours before hoisting sail and heading for another sunny beach refuge somewhere in the Caribbean. St. Vincent and a string of smaller islands called the Grenadines, which include Mustique, Beckwith, Palm Island, PSV, Union, and Canouan, all within an easy day's sailing from each other in the prevailing northeasterly winds. St. Vincent itself is called the mainland by its population, although it's only some 20 miles in length. In the north, the Soufriere volcano struts out into the sky impressively. It's still active from time to time. In the south, Young Island entertains the regular visitors who come here for diving and sailing, and sometimes just a refreshing fruit punch at the bar. It's a good place to meet other island hoppers, by the way. The mainland of St. Vincent is rugged and lush green throughout the year. Its steep mountain ridges, valleys and waterfalls are very different in character to the rest in the Grenadine chain of islands. The people seem friendly and the unhurried way of life is catching. Kingstown is great during the day for shopping and sightseeing, but in the evenings life returns to the hotels dotted around the southern coastline. Young Island, which is the best known resort here, has lively bands to entertain, a delightful buffet displays and cosy thatched roofed huts where one can relax and enjoy the evening to the full. By day, St. Vincent offers a lot of activities. There's good diving for beginners and more experienced divers a few miles up the coast, and the Falls of Baleine are worth a visit. Incidentally, only accessible by boat, so ask your captain to extend the trip and show you the volcano from the water's edge too. It's quite a sight.
And as always, you go and get away from the current. Once you get down, you know it's on the other side of the rock.
3, have a nice day.
2, 3, have a nice.
Kingstown Market is on everyone's itinerary, good for photo opportunities, and a final look at St. Vincent before moving on to discover other, thus far, unknown islands on our voyage.
And if you want to visit or come for a vacation, appreciation you will find at facility in the Caribbean. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we love you. They say why? Because they're the natural place to be. Tell them why it's the natural place to be.
The deep water harbour of Basseterre is the likely place of arrival for most visitors to St. Christopher, affectionately known as St. Kitts, situated in the northern parts of the Leeward Islands. Cruise ships and flotillas of small craft ply the harbour, one of the busiest we've seen so far. The Caribel Batik workshops, where exquisite hand-painted batik creations are produced by the locals, is on everyone's itinerary. The batiks make excellent souvenirs, either as garments or framed wall coverings. In the far south of the island is the Great Salt Pond, a dry lake where the deposited salt is crystallized into diamond look-alikes. This part of the island is relatively flat and dry, in contrast to the three peaks further north and the lush rainforest embracing them. The island is blessed with bays and beaches, truly the holidaymaker's paradise. Frigate Bay is the main resort area that's been developed for tourism. There are fine hotels, long, gently sloping beaches, even a golf course. It's quite easy to find self-catering villas here, and island hoppers may find such accommodation of best value. Contact the local tourist office on arrival. The capital, Basseterre, is on everyone's excursion itinerary. There are some noteworthy sights, such as the Circus, Independence Square, St. George's Church, and the Craft House. As on most other Caribbean islands, the currency is the NT dollar, which is linked to the US dollar. Before leaving St. Kitts, visit Brimstone Hill. It's called the Gibraltar of the West Indies. This 17th century fort has witnessed many a battle between the warring British and French navies in these beautiful seas. It overlooks two smaller islands, Saba and St. Eustatius. St. Kitts is small and less prominent than many of the other Caribbean holiday hideaways, but for those seeking a little calm and solitude, it's a superb choice. There is only one way of getting to Nevis, the sister island of St. Kitts, and that is by ferry or boat. No airport, not even a small one here. The island is less than 10 miles from north to south and is known as the Queen of the Caribbean. Over the last 100 years or so, Nevis has become one of the world's most exclusive resorts. It's difficult to get to, and those who do make it here are rewarded for their effort. Charlestown, with its weathered wooden buildings decorated like gingerbread, is a treat for the eye. Cotton ginnery is recommended for a visit. Trade has survived here for hundreds of years and probably changed little. There are fewer sandy beaches here than in St. Kitts, but even fewer people to occupy. Alexander Hamilton was born here, commemorated with a museum. There are several other noteworthy places to visit, such as the courthouse and some of the old plantation houses now converted into luxury hotels and resorts, like Nisbet and Zetland. Four Seasons Hotel has its own new 18-hole golf course designed by top golf architects, making the best of the super scenery. The weather on Nevis is renowned, and the hot tropical climate is tempered by trade winds, the driest period between January and April. Generally, water sports are limited compared to larger, more popular island resorts, so Nevis is more for those who enjoy privacy and tranquility, though the hotel's beaches are well equipped and guests have all the comforts they desire. Original favourite with the yachting fraternity in the northeast Caribbean, Antigua and Barbuda, a little way east in the Leeward Islands, are world famous for their annual regattas. Covers a multitude of coves and harbours, ideal for the small yachts to sail around these shores, dropping anchor off deserted beaches in the clear blue and azure waters. Antigua is reputed to have 365 beaches, one for every day of the year. What fun indeed! We suggest that after such an extensive venture around some of the choicest of the Caribbean islands, a longer stop is made here. The selection of holiday hotels is second to none. The water sports are free, and the beaches so inviting that resistance would be foolish indeed. Many of the hotels are well spread out in large, spacious grounds, where bungalows are discreetly located far apart from one another. Some have flagpoles at the ready for signalling to the reception if service is required. Otherwise, no one will disturb. Nelson's Dockyard is one of the safest landlocked harbours in the world and much used by Admiral Nelson. Today, it's the most frequented harbour used by yachtsmen from all around the globe. Most of the Caribbean cruising holidays either start or end up here. Antigua's annual calendar is a lively one. There are tennis weeks, sailing weeks, and of course the carnival week. Usually very busy, so plan your stopover well ahead. Island hopping among these gems is truly exhilarating and quite unique. The climate is unsurpassable. The scenery from island to island is varied, and the colors of the Caribbean seas change from deep blue to light turquoise, and just about everything else in between. The sunsets present a nightly spectacle, softly punctuating every perfect day. Island hopping can be simple or sophisticated. The choices are there, whether one takes a ferry for a few pence to cross from one to another, a plane to rise above the seas and do it from the air, or by yacht, skipping along the shimmering waves. It's all the same. The fun of it all is guaranteed indeed.
The country lives in harmony with its natural beauty as it builds for tomorrow. International Video Network welcomes you on this video visits tour of Sweden, Nordic treasure.
The freedom here is the freedom to walk around in the forests, pick berries, swim in the lakes, and well, walk in the mountains too. I love that.
It takes sometimes though to get to know us, but if you get to know us, you will have a good friend.
They're pretty nice people, I'd say. Honest, they're pretty alright, I'd say.
They are just great. I'm from the north of Sweden, and we have the midnight sun up there, and that's the most fantastic thing of Sweden.
We are a little shy, that's it. Modern-day Sweden is a country in balance. From its sparsely populated countryside to its cities and people, it is a land rich with cultural heritage. Sweden has been able to achieve a powerful industrial base without sacrificing its natural beauty. The Swedish landscape is a gift from nature, left over from the last ice age some 10,000 years ago. A unique mix of coasts speckled with islands and inlets, farmlands, wilderness, and snow-covered mountains. Perhaps the most prominent feature in Sweden's natural legacy is its vast carpet of fir trees and 90,000 lakes that cover most of its interior. As part of Scandinavia, Sweden is blessed with warm summers and cold, dry winters. The enjoyable climate may be one reason why the Swedes spend more money for personal vacations than any other people in Europe. Sweden is the fourth largest nation in Europe, after the Soviet Union, France, and Spain. It is 10 times larger than Denmark, about equal in size to the state of California. The country is bordered by Finland on the northeast just across the Baltic Straits from Denmark to the south. Its western border was drawn by Mother Nature. A continuous mountain range divides Sweden and Norway. The northern reaches of Sweden lie above the Arctic Circle. This wilderness, known as Lapland, extends into Finland, Norway, and the Soviet Union. The Swedish people enjoy a very high standard of living. This is due in part to Sweden's economic strength as an industrialized, high-tech nation. By remaining neutral throughout World Wars I and II, Sweden has enjoyed a more continuous peace than most nations, allowing the Swedes to concentrate on progress. The vast wealth of minerals, timber, and hydroelectric power continues to provide Sweden with a strong economy. Stockholm, Sweden's charming capital city, is located on the east coast of the country at the juncture of Lake Mälaren and the Baltic Sea. Surrounded by water, Stockholm is best seen by boat, a fact that inspires many to call Stockholm the Venice of the North. Records dating back to 1252 indicate that Stockholm began as a fortress. Today, the city stretches across 14 islands connected by numerous bridges, a rail system, and a modern metro. Stockholm is a beautiful city, and it's also extremely well preserved. The people are considered progressive in their thinking and are highly educated. Stockholm rivals Paris and London in its cosmopolitan European appeal. Of all the islands that make up Stockholm, Norrmalm is most prominent. Centrally located, Norrmalm contains Stockholm's major business district and also its most famous park, Kingsgarden, which serves as the town's primary rendezvous point. Originally a vegetable garden for the royal palace, Kingsgarden has been a public park since 1562 and a hub of warm weather, fun, and games. A walk south through Kingsgarden ends at the bridge to the old city, the historic island of Gamlestan. Stockholm was founded on Gamlestan in the mid-13th century. Though it is now listed on the National Register, Gamlestan was once a slum. These days, apartments on the island are highly prized and very expensive. Gamlestan is also the home to some historically important institutions, including the Great Church, the oldest parish church in Stockholm. Founded in the 13th century, it was once the site of many royal coronations. The church is one of the few buildings remaining from the Middle Ages. Its towering columns and vaulted ceiling bespeak the solidity and staunch faith of its congregation. An inspiring fusion of art and religion exists in the intricately carved and gilded wooden altar and pulpit. But the church's most distinguished art treasure is the wooden statue of St. George and the Dragon. It was carved by sculptor Bernt Notke. The statue was presented to the church in 1489 to commemorate Sweden's victory over the Danes in 1471. Adjacent to the great church is the royal palace of the King of Sweden. large palace courtyard always draws a crowd to one of Sweden's most colorful spectacles, the changing of the guard. The palace is the storehouse for many of the country's treasures. With its 608 rooms, it is the largest palace in the world still used by a head of state. Spacious hallways allow for a casual stroll and solitary contemplation of life as a member of the noble class. The royal apartments are decorated with a dazzling collection of furniture dating back to the 1700s. Some notable items are the king's golden throne and a number of exquisite Gobelin tapestries. The collection began some 500 years ago when Sweden's king, Gustav Vasa, ordered that the royal costumes, jewelry, and armory be stored in the palace basement. Today, the total collection numbers more than 1.5 million items and is stored in 10 palaces. As many as 200 royal employees preserve, polish, and protect these national treasures. Of all these items, the jewel-encrusted royal regalia stored in the royal treasury may be the most impressive.
The king's crown is, of course, the most important, and the oldest one is the king's crown today too, the one ordered by Erik XIV, and that crown has been used by the Vasa dynasty. A coronation was actually a way to get the support of the mighty Catholic Church a long time ago, and nowadays we have a very stable society, and of course it's very expensive with the coronation too, and that's why these beautiful jewels are still a symbol, but the king himself, that is the kings we have had during this century, they have chosen not to be crowned.
Though the king and queen have working offices in the royal palace, Drottningholm Palace, located just west of Stockholm, is where they make their home. And what a home it is, filled with crystal, gold, marble, and ornate statues. Drottningholm Palace is called a Versailles in miniature. Built at the end of the 17th century, the Baroque palace also boasts some of the most beautiful painted ceilings. Though the centuries have not tarnished the pageantry surrounding Swedish royalty, the political stature of the king has changed considerably. Until 1975, when Sweden's new constitution went into effect, the king had certain executive powers. Today, his position as head of state is mostly ceremonial. The country is a constitutional monarchy. The prime minister and cabinet hold executive power, while legislative power lies with its one-house parliament, the Riksdag. Each of the Riksdag's 349 members serve a 3-year term. Of these, 310 are directly elected. The remaining 39 are apportioned to competing parties which receive at least 4% of a nationwide vote. Though Sweden has 3 non-socialist parties, its most predominant political party, the Socialist Democratic Labour Party, is responsible for creating the country's extensive welfare system. The system provides for comprehensive social benefits covering sickness, maturity, unemployment, and a paid 4-week vacation. To support the system, Sweden's citizens are compelled to pay high taxes.
Sometimes I think also they appreciate some of the things they get through their taxes. They have a quite good medical system, and they also have sort of a tighter social security net in Sweden, but that costs also a lot of money.
The islands of Stockholm offer a unique setting for the city's numerous museums and cultural exhibits. Among the most beautiful is the outdoor gallery of Swedish sculptor Carl Milles. Milles, who achieved worldwide recognition, left his sculptures and his home to the city of Stockholm upon his death in 1955. Museums can be found all over and under Stockholm. Connecting Stockholm's islands and outlying areas is one of the world's most impressive subway systems. The grotto-like atmosphere of the Tunnelbana was created by excavating through solid rock. Stops along this underground art gallery are adorned by murals and sculptures. Clean blue trains connect the stations along 103 kilometers of track. Works of art created by some of Sweden's best and most progressive artists can be found in many of the stations. Truly, Stockholm can claim an impressive and moving subculture. Treasures from Sweden's past can be found almost anywhere, and nowhere is that more true than at the world's oldest open-air museum, Skansen. Established in 1891, Skansen is really historic Sweden in microcosm. Of special interest are the rural buildings that have been moved to Skansen from all over the country. A church from Seglora, built in the early 1700s. The Delsbo farm, built about 1850. Sami huts from Lapland, and windmills from days gone by. From the looms that once wove fabric to the colorful costumes that were fashioned from it, the importance of preserving tradition is Skansen's true hallmark. Interiors have been painstakingly recreated, giving the visitor a remarkable hint of how Swedish people lived, worked, and worshipped from the 16th century to the present. The directive, "Take it to City Hall," is a distinct pleasure in the city of Stockholm. Located in the district of Kungsholmen, the City Hall building, completed in 1923, took 12 years to build. It has been called one of the great architectural works of our time and is among the most beautiful buildings built in Europe during the 20th century. The opulent Golden Hall is 144 feet long and is decorated with 19 million mosaic tiles made of 23-karat gold. The award dinners for the Nobel Prize, named after Swedish inventor Alfred B. Nobel, were originally held in this room. In recent years, they've moved to the Blue Hall. The name's a bit confusing, since the only blue in the room comes from the sky, as seen through the windows high above an inner courtyard paved in marble. Since the Nobel Peace Prize was first awarded in 1901, the Swedish people have been leaders in championing the cause for world peace. But Sweden has not always held such pacifistic beliefs. Throughout much of their early history, the Swedes were involved in a series of wars, often relying on their extensive knowledge of the sea to tip the scales in their favor. The nearby island of Djurgården serves as the final resting place of the world's only surviving 17th century warship, the Vasa. She was the Titanic of her day. This top-heavy, double-decker pride of the Swedish Navy set off on her maiden voyage in 1628 with much pomp and with 100 crew members on board. She'd sailed less than a mile when the wind picked up and heeled her over. The Vasa quickly sank, taking 50 people down with her. The ship rested 110 feet below the surface for 3 centuries. Then, in 1961, she was given a new life and a temporary new home.
We have about 95% of the hull of the ship, and we have about 98% of the 700 sculptures. And this is very unique. And all this is because Anders Franzén figured out that in the Baltic there would be no Teredo navalis, that is this little ship's worm that eats wood, that lives of wood. And as it can't live in the Baltic because of the lack of salt, all the Baltic really is full of old wrecks. But not all of them were like the Vasa. She wasn't burnt down, she didn't hit a rock. She slowly went down in the mud in the middle of the harbor of Stockholm, and there she lay waiting for her discoverer and for us modern people.
After 384 architectural submissions, a provocative design for the new Vasa Museum was chosen. In 1990, work on the copper-covered structure was completed, and the ship's permanent home was inaugurated by King Carl Gustaf XVI. The Vasa is now enclosed in a state-of-the-art, climate-controlled museum. Computer stations are available, which allow museum visitors to navigate the Vasa on screen, study ballast problems, or contemplate wind strength. The demise of the Vasa was a tragic footnote for a country rich in sailing tradition. As far back as 800 AD, the land now known as Sweden was considered a world power, and Vikings ruled the seas. Vikings were the best shipbuilders of their time. The fjords that cut into the coastline made water travel the main form of transportation. New shipbuilding methods and the addition of a keel allowed the Vikings to travel great distances. In fact, some historians believe Swedish explorer Leif Erikson landed in North America about 500 years before Christopher Columbus. Today, many Viking artifacts can be viewed at the National Historical Museum.
They traveled in great parts of the world. The Western Vikings went to England, Ireland, they colonized Greenland. But the Swedish people, especially here on the Baltic coast, went to Russia, where they colonized big parts of the inner country, so that parts of Russia was called Svitjod in Mikla, the big Sweden. And there are also lots of Scandinavian or Swedish names in the old lists of names on the early Russian rulers.
Though the Vikings are best known for their marauding ways, new research from the towns of Birka and Helge outside Stockholm has revealed that many Vikings were also farmers and traders, with ties to Europe and Asia. Viking grave sites show that the burials of the wealthy were very involved. The dead were buried in ceremonial grave ships to give them a comfortable journey. In death, as in life, sailing and the sea played an important part in the lives of the Vikings. Sweden's historical relationship with the sea has not been lost in the city of Göteborg, on the southwest coast of Sweden. The industrial metropolis of Göteborg, with a population of about 500,000, is Sweden's second largest city, and her gateway to the shipping world. It is centrally positioned in Scandinavia, making it a natural trade center. With 14 miles of harbor and 1 million square feet of warehouse space, Göteborg conducts more than twice as much business as the Danish city of Copenhagen, Scandinavia's other busy port. 25 million tons of goods pass through here each year. Considering Sweden's bond with the sea, it's no wonder the Vasa wasn't the only Swedish ship destined to sink and rise again. The Göteborg, a three-masted frigate with her own story to tell, rests in Göteborg harbor at the historic Älvsborg Fortress. The fortress was built in 1670 as a defense site for Swedish cargo ships. Today, the island serves as a center for the excavation of one ship that didn't quite make it back. Unlike the Vasa, which sank as it sailed out of port, the Göteborg ran aground in 1745 on her way into port. The crew survived, but the ship sank along with 700 tons of precious cargo from China. The excavation was started in 1985 by diving instructor Anders Wastfeldt.
The whole project started by a group of amateurs. I was one of them. I'm a diver as a normal person. And this is very special because normally when you make an excavation, it's always people from the university or other institutions who arrange it. But this is private people taking care of everything from the bottom of the sea to the exhibition which we have in the museums. So all these things are done by private people for fun. And we have a lot of fun.
Divers have already recovered nearly 2 tons of chinaware, cannonballs, cookware, and hundreds of pounds of Chinese tea. Some of Sweden's largest industries are headquartered in Göteborg, including Volvo, the largest car manufacturer in Europe.
For Gothenburg and for Sweden, Volvo has a very important role to play. For example, 12% of our total export from Sweden is made by Volvo. We are more than 26,000 people working at Volvo in Gothenburg. During the 19th century, Sweden was a typical agriculture country where most of the population based their living on agriculture. Now, during the 20th century, it has changed completely. So now the industry takes a big role in the Swedish society. Quality, top quality, and high technology are very important roles to play because we are working on the world market and we have to be among the best, if not the best.
Sweden's industries, those based on high technology and those of a more traditional nature, have both found a home in Göteborg. Göteborg's fish harbor is one of the largest in Scandinavia. Since 1910, early mornings here have been charged with the sounds of wholesalers hawking their daily catch. And once sold, where might it end up? Some will certainly find its way to the retail seafood markets, where a lack of choice is never a problem. Another portion may just end up in a smörgåsbord.
Well, the smörgåsbord is one of Sweden's national monuments. Our smörgåsbord for the moment is about 90 different things. Then you start with herrings, you know, Baltic herrings that comes in fresh, prepared by us, and then herrings from Iceland that come in salted. About 10 different kind of the Baltics and 10 different kind of the Iceland herring. Then the different kind of salmons, smoked salmon, fresh boiled salmon, eels in different ways, and fish salads. That is on the second plate. In Swedish smorgasbord you have to go at least 5 times. Refill your plate, take a new plate at least 5 times. The third plate you eat different kind of meat things. Sausages, roast beef, reindeer, smoked reindeer, and we even have smoked horse on the smorgasbord. That is a Swedish tradition. We have had it always. It goes in that table.
The elegance of Swedish dining might include candles as a centerpiece. Interestingly, the safety matches used to light them were invented in Sweden, which is still one of the world's leading producers of matches. Sailors in the Göteborg harbor are greeted by Sweden's version of the Statue of Liberty, known as the Woman by the Sea. At the turn of the century, Göteborg harbor was the departure point for nearly 1 million Swedes. In the mid-1860s, a rapid increase in the population and a shortage of food and jobs encouraged many to yearn for a new life abroad. The majority emigrated to America, entering primarily through New York's Ellis Island. The bulk of the new Swedish immigrants settled in America's heartland, the Midwest. By 1910, 1/5 of Sweden's population was living in America. People interested in their Swedish roots can come here to the Emigrant Institute located in Växjö, a small town southeast of Göteborg. Thousands of institutional records have been transferred to microfilm, and when combined with 25,000 books, it becomes relatively easy for Sweden's descendants to trace their ancestry. Although once known as a point of departure, Göteborg is also the first port of call for many who enter Sweden by boat. Beyond the harbor, Göteborg is a unique blend of old and new. Carl Milles Poseidon, Greek god of the sea, watches over a mile-long pedestrian mall filled with shops and restaurants. Göteborg is also one of the few remaining cities in the world with working antique streetcars. Sunny days are not taken for granted in Göteborg. Historical places like the Palm House and Botanical Gardens allow for a communion with Sweden's past as well as with its natural wonders. Just 40 minutes north of Göteborg is the Swedish fjord country, the province of Bohuslän. Spectacular vistas attract numerous Swedish vacationers, making the West Coast one of Sweden's most popular summer playgrounds. Dotting the region are many picturesque fishing villages. The colorful wooden houses and scenic harbors recall a time when the fishing trade was the major activity here. The serene atmosphere of Bohuslän is a great place to enjoy a lazy afternoon, punctuated by a pleasurable dip at a nearby cove. As beautiful as Sweden's coasts are, it is her deep forests, rolling farmlands, and glacier-sculpted lakes that inspire many Swedish artists and craftsmen. Such is the case in the province of Småland in southern Sweden. This is where King Gustav Vasa in 1556 first employed a number of Italian glassblowers to establish a glassworks. The province, now known as the Kingdom of Glass, is awash with galleries, each displaying its own breathtaking collection of colors, shapes, and designs of crystalware. Here, Costa Boda, Orifors, and 15 other glassworks produce some of the world's most beautiful, collectible, and delicate crystalware. These examples of crystalline art were produced at the Costa Boda Glassworks. Established in 1742, little has changed, as teams of artisans still handcraft the glasswares with the same tools and techniques glassmakers used over 2,000 years ago. Costa Boda is now the largest glassmaker in Sweden, exporting half its yearly production of 5 million pieces of crystal. Along with handmade commercial glassware, one-of-a-kind artistic pieces are designed by Costa's innovative designers, like Kjell Engman.
I think Costa Boda is very special on that, because we have very freedom to make what we want to do. And a lot of the artworks is also the experiment works for maybe say these commercial things later, because you want to find out some new techniques, something new you don't seen before.
In order to produce a finished product from his initial concept, the artist must work closely with the master glassblower. 8 to 10 years of experience are necessary before someone can acquire the time-honored title of master glassblower. It is the master blower who transforms the artist's design into a completed work. At the factory, sketches and concepts are laid out by the artist and discussed briefly with the craftsman. Years of collaboration have instilled a mutual trust between artist and master craftsman, allowing for a free flow of inspiration with a minimum of discussion. Another artist who draws inspiration from Sweden's scenic beauty and its past is Kalle Örnemark. Örnemark works beside Lake Rugberg in Riddersberg, about 60 miles north of Costa Boda. In an open-air studio, Örnemark blends music, poetry, and tree sculpting to create his unusual works.
As a tree sculptor, it's wonderful to live in Sweden. And we have access to old houses. We have old houses being torn down. And I use the wood from these old houses in my work. The warmth and history of the wood shows through. And the stories of these old houses continue to live in my art.
Örnemark's ability to fuse raw materials, space, and time is the main reason he's considered one of Sweden's living legends. The valleys of north-central Sweden shelter a land of folklore and legends. Women dressed in folk costumes still row long boats near the shores of beautiful Lake Silja as they head for Sunday morning church services. The parishioners climb ashore at Rättvik to a white-painted church known as the Kneeling Bridge. The church dates from the 16th century when Gustav Vasa, a native of Dalarna, came here to rally his countrymen to revolt against Danish rule. In 1523, he was crowned King of Sweden and later introduced the Reformation, the era in which Lutheranism became the state religion. The timber that provides Sweden with one of its major natural resources grows in abundance in Dalarna. Some 50,000 acres, nearly 3/4 of the province, are covered by forest. Naturally, woodcrafts abound. The famed Olsen brothers have been carving the traditional Dalarna horses since 1928. The history of the wooden horse goes back centuries, when farmers and villagers carved them as toys for their children. During the 19th century, people began painting the horses in bright designs, imitating the popular folk painting called dalmåleri. Nils and Jannes Olsen rekindled interest in the horses as a symbol of Sweden.
In 1939, at the World Exhibition in New York, we made a big horse here in Nusnäs, about 1.5 meters, for the exhibition, and it was a big success.
And they've been producing Dalarna horses in their workshop ever since. The province of Dalarna is the cradle of Swedish freedom, the keeper of lively customs and bright-colored crafts. But Dalarna also houses a dark and gritty side of Sweden's industrial past. In centuries past, surrounded by fumes and murky darkness, 900 men toiled by torchlight in Sweden's treasure chest of copper, the Falun copper mine. Today, the Copper Mountain in Dalarna is a modern industrial site belonging to the Stora Company, the oldest incorporated business in the world.
We started about the year of 1000, when the Vikings were in action in the Nordic part of Europe or Scandinavia. But since then, we have been taking out copper of the copper mine up to our days. So we are still in work in this old mine, which is supposed to be the oldest company in the world without any interruption during 1,000 years. But the very boom period of this copper mine was in 1650s about, when about 70% or 2/3 part of all copper in the well-known world at that time came from the copper mine. So we covered the castle of Versailles outside Paris, and we also financed our wars, our politics inside and outside of foreign politics. So this was the treasure of Sweden at that time.
In northern Sweden, above the Arctic Circle, lies Europe's last wilderness. The province known as Lapland is one of the few places in the world to experience both the magic of the midnight sun and the drama of the aurora borealis. The region of Lapland actually extends from Norway through Sweden, Finland, and into the Soviet Union's Kola Peninsula. Roughly speaking, Lapland shares approximately the same latitude as Alaska. Mount Kebnekaise, Sweden's highest mountain, rises nearly 7,000 feet and overlooks the glaciers, forests, and rushing rivers of this mineral-rich land. Sweden's three most important natural resources, iron ore, timber, and water power, are all in abundant supply in Lapland. The region's rushing rivers supply Sweden with 55% of its electrical energy in the form of hydroelectric power. Since more than half of Sweden is covered with forest, the rivers are often employed to float logs downstream for processing. Swedish mills supply 7% of the world's wood pulp. An impressive 1/5 of Sweden's export is lumber or products made of wood. Lapland offers the opportunity for boundless outdoor activity. In summer, its mild temperature and long hours of sunlight create an explosion of wildflowers that caress hills and valleys. Iron ore is Sweden's most important mineral resource, and the largest deposits are found in Kiruna, a town that rests between two ore-bearing mountains. Kiruna grew up as a mining town in the early 1900s. And iron ore is still what makes the town tick, a fact embodied in the architecture of the steel-girdered tower that rises above City Hall. Kiruna's population is small, about 27,000. first inhabitants of the area were the Lapps, or Sami as they prefer to call themselves.
The Lappish people are people of the nature, you can say. They live with the nature, they have always done it.
People from Kiruna, they are nature people. They want to go out in the forests, in the mountain. In the winter we drive snowmobile, dog sledging, skiing, downhill and cross country. And also we do ice hole fishing.
More than anywhere else in Sweden, the people of Lapland are one with their natural environment. Some 8,000 Lapps live in Sweden, of which about 2,000 are considered mountain Lapps. They derive their livelihood primarily from herding reindeer.
Because we live so close to nature, so we had to follow the nature law. Nature shows what's right and wrong. You must be very careful when you're out in the nature, because they are living, the trees are living, everything are living. So if you are good to nature, nature will be good back to you and give you health and luck. And give food for your reindeer, of course.
The reindeer is considered a domesticated animal in Lapland, much like the cow or sheep in other parts of the world. But reindeer are unique in their ability to survive on the sparse winter vegetation of Lapland, making them perfectly suited for life above the Arctic Circle. Likewise, the Lapps have also adapted to this hard life. Mountain Lapps depend on their reindeer as a prime source of meat, milk, and cheese. About the only food they need from the outside world is coffee and salt. The reindeer also serve as draft and pack animals, but they're raised primarily for meat and provide the Lapps' chief source of income. Traditionally, the Lapps have been a nomadic people. Though tradition still plays a part in many aspects of Lapp life, the conveniences of the modern world have changed some of their ways.
You live where you follow the reindeer, and you live in that place where your reindeer have moved in thousands of years. You follow them, and that the reindeer have make your place to live, your land. So this is our land.
Today, the use of dirt bikes, helicopters, and snowmobiles makes the task of following the reindeer herds much easier as they make their seasonal migration up and down the mountains. But not all Lapps have embraced these modern conveniences. In Lapland, the dog sled is an alternative form of transportation, as well as an income-producing source of recreation.
We had also snowmobiles, but it was we had for situations. But I take the dogs because I had more silence with the dogs, and you can look around you the whole time when you drive dogs. You can do it when you drive snowmobiles. You must like what you drive the whole time. The only you can drive with dogs is if the dog like it. If the dog like it, they don't draw.
Lapland has proven for many to be a source of wonder, mystery, and inspiration. From the winter's northern lights to the summer's midnight sun.
You have jobs, and then you go for holidays, and this is our life. You have job and life, it's the same.
In Lapland, as in so much of Sweden, there's a feeling of pride and a sense of balance. The Swedish people live in harmony with nature and draw their strength from it. It's a long way from the rushing waters of Lapland to the cobblestone alleys of Gamlestan, or the longboats of Gollum. But the Swedish people share a common past and a spirit of friendship and goodwill. Together, the Swedes have a unique ability to look toward the future while proudly preserving their heritage and cultural traditions. The Swedes have taken bold steps to make their government responsive and compassionate, and in the process, they have become a model to the world.
Just place to place, we're so much more. A new idea of what an airline's for. You know we'll say yes, we'll show you how we care. We're SAS, and we'll be there. We're SAS, and we'll be there. We're SAS.
World travel, filled with action, excitement, and adventure. International Video Network's video visits are your ticket to the world. These exciting video programs will whisk you away to more than 50 fascinating destinations on 6 continents. Breathtaking photography heightens the beauty and grandeur of the world's greatest cities and countries. Entertaining as well as informative, video visits are a great way to relive memorable vacations. plan your next trip or just to satisfy your curiosity of exotic locales. From the pulsating sounds of Carnival in Rio to the peaceful serenity of Ireland's countryside, each video visit will transport you to the actual location. Video visits also feature authentic ethnic music providing insights into the different cultures of the world. Whether it be an Irish Colleen singing a traditional folk song, or the boisterous Oktoberfest in Munich, you'll examine the people of today's ever-changing world, discovering the similarities and differences that makes each of them unique, from the native Eskimos of Alaska to the Buddhist monks of China. Bring the world into your home by visiting such sites as all these and many more exciting destinations are waiting to be discovered by you now. Also available is the Reader's Digest Great National Park Series, Yosemite, Yellowstone, and the Grand Canyon. Crown jewels of America's national park system are available for your viewing pleasure. To start or expand your video travel library, order Video Visits or the Great National Park Series from your favorite retailer, mail order catalog, or by calling International Video Network at 415-866-1121 for the name of a distributor near you.